and equitable trade. That is the advice to every nation of the world.
So, and that it would please the president, wouldn't it, to see Britain drop bans on chlorinated chicken, hormone beef, that kind of thing, coming from the United States?
I will say once again, you should.
Before we dive into the full story, comment where you're watching from, and don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Today, we're taking a closer look at another heated political exchange involving Sebastian Gawker, a senior figure within the Trump administration, and the way he defended the White House's controversial decisions on tariffs and economic policy. This interview quickly became a perfect example of the wider political divide surrounding Donald Trump's leadership style. Supporters see confidence, strategy, and a willingness to challenge the traditional way of doing things. Critics, however, argue that the administration often dismisses expert concerns and responds to criticism by attacking the people raising those concerns instead of addressing the substance of the arguments. In this conversation, Gawker strongly defended Trump's approach, presenting every move as part of a larger plan and pushing back against those questioning the consequences of the administration's decisions. But the responses also raised questions about whether confidence alone is enough when economists, markets, and political observers are expressing serious concerns. So, we're going to break down this exchange, look at the arguments being made, and examine why this debate over Trump's tariffs and economic strategy has created such a major political storm. Let's get into it.
Sebastian Gawker is Deputy Assistant to President Trump and Senior Director for Counterterrorism on the National Security Council. Thank you very much indeed for coming on the show. Was the pause on tariffs for everyone but China part of the plan, Mr. Gawker?
Oh, everything is part of the plan, Tom. This is the man who wrote The Art of the Deal and has lived it for at least the last 50 years in the private sector. This is the man who defeated ISIS, crushed the caliphate, secured the border. Were you alive for the 4 years we were in the White House the first time? So yes, everything he does is done with utter intentionality.
Okay, so on Monday, when there was a rumour that the White House was going to pause tariffs for 90 days and that was denied, and then on Wednesday you paused tariffs for 90 days, what changed?
Nothing. The fact that you're listening to rumours. That's the only thing that changed.
The White House was, because the White House denied it.
Doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. Look, the fact is the fact.
So on Monday, there was no plan for 90-day pause.
What happened to Black Monday, Tom?
What do you mean?
Do you remember what the mainstream lying legacy media told us? Oh my gosh, the economy is going to crash. It's going to be Black Monday. That's weird. It didn't happen. And then the stocks rallied. So let's be very clear.
They're not back to levels they were.
Oh, really? Well, oh no, 6 days later, they're not. Shock horror. Look, here's the reality. I'm on the National Security Council. I pity my colleagues on the National Economics Council because they are deluged. Almost 100 nations, more than 75 heads of state are begging for phone calls with President Trump. That's the reality of what we're doing here. We are resetting the global economy because we are no longer the world's piggy bank.
And people don't get it, Mr. Gawker. People don't understand. Enemies of Trump don't understand this.
Well, it's either they don't understand it or they have vested interests in the stock market, in globalization, or they just hate my boss because they have Trump derangement syndrome. 8 years ago, TDS was, a joke. It was risible. Now it is a clinical condition, sadly.
Can I get your thoughts on whether or not Nigel Farage has also got TDS? Take a listen.
I've never agreed with the tariff policy. Do you know what? I think Trump did too much too soon, rather like Liz Truss did a couple of years ago. I've never in my life before seen stock markets fall quickly and bond markets fall at the same time.
Do you accept that criticism from Nigel Farage? Too much too soon?
Not in the slightest. Why would I? Why would I when we have almost 100 nations begging to talk to the president for equitable terms that actually create free trade that is fair trade? I love Nigel dearly, and thanks to him, you actually have an independent nation now, and you had Brexit.
So why is he wrong?
No, I don't have to agree with Nigel Farage, sorry.
So why is he wrong?
Why? Because he's not in the White House and he doesn't know the reality of how, as I said, I don't know, should I say the fourth time? Almost 100 nations are now negotiating with Scott Bessent, the Secretary of the Treasury, and with the National Economic Council and with President Trump. Why? Because it's the art of the deal. It has nothing to do with Nigel Farage. It's the art of the deal.
What does the president want from the UK in order to drop the 10% tariff applied to us?
It's not about individual countries, and as a politically commissioned officer of the president, I'm not going to tell another nation what to do, especially the land of my birth. I will say the advice to every nation. Every nation should drop punitive measures, be they tariff or otherwise, upon US goods. If you want to do business with the biggest market in the world and the largest individual economy in the world, we will only do business with you if it is based upon fair and equitable trade. That is the advice to every nation of the world.
So, and that it would please the president, wouldn't it, to see Britain drop bans on chlorinated chicken, hormone beef, that kind of thing, coming from the United States?
I will say once again, you should.
The interview with Sebastian Gawker has certainly sparked a strong reaction, but the bigger question is whether confidence and political messaging can overcome the concerns being raised by economists, businesses, and global markets. Critics of Donald Trump's tariff strategy argue that the administration's approach relies too heavily on focusing on trade deficits between individual countries. Many economists have pushed back on that idea, arguing that a trade deficit alone does not automatically mean one country is being treated unfairly or losing in the global economy. Their argument is that tariffs often create consequences that are felt at home. When governments place additional costs on imported goods, those costs can eventually reach businesses and consumers through higher prices. Critics say this can put pressure on ordinary people while also creating uncertainty for companies that rely on international supply chains. And that is exactly why Trump's tariff policies have become such a major point of debate. Supporters argue that these measures are a negotiating tool designed to force other countries into what they describe as more balanced trade agreements. But opponents argue that using tariffs this aggressively risks creating unnecessary tensions with major trading partners and could lead to economic disruption. The clash with China has become one of the biggest examples of this battle. Rather than immediately backing down, China has responded with its own measures, creating a cycle of economic pressure between the two largest economies in the world. Meanwhile, the Trump administration continues to defend the strategy by saying that countries around the world are looking to negotiate with the United States. But critics question these claims, arguing that major statements need to be backed up with clear evidence rather than repeated as political talking points. And that is where this debate really comes down to. Is this a carefully calculated strategy that will reshape global trade, or is it a risky approach that could create more problems than solutions? The exchange between Sebastian Gawker and the British reporter perfectly captures the wider argument happening right now. One side sees a president willing to challenge the old system, while the other sees policies that could create unnecessary economic consequences. But what do you think? Was Trump's tariff strategy a bold move to protect American interests, or a decision that could end up hurting the very people it claims to help? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more political analysis. See you in the next one.